Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. It's a lovely Monday night. I'm out here after dinner, and I'm going to degree the camshaft in the 377 small block Chevy and the 421. Now, you were not aware, and I haven't shown you that I put the pistons back up. I put the crankshaft and the rods and pistons in the 421. Last time I talked about it, I was just going to attempt to clean the carbon off the top of the pistons. That turned into quite an ordeal. I tried somewhat unsuccessfully. I tried a little bit of oven cleaner. I was trying not to strip the piston off the rod and take all the rings off it. I wanted something easy. I just wanted to spray the top of the piston and wipe the goop off. Well, that didn't work. It worked better than anything. I let it soak in my parts washer solvent for weeks, and that didn't do anything. My brother suggested water. I guess that normally works pretty good. And I'm not sure my black deposits are actually carbon because water didn't touch it. I could have soaked it in carb cleaner, but it's a little too caustic. So finally, I just put it in the ultrasonic cleaner and I ran it for a few hours and it was somewhat softening it up. And then I actually brushed it off, wiped it off, Scotch-Brighted it off, and then put it back in and cleaned it again in the ultrasonic cleaner. This was a week ago today, Monday, in the afternoon while I was working on transmissions. And then I came back out in the evening because I was afraid the water, it's soapy water, but still water, was going to be in the rod bolt holes and behind the rings and in the piston pin. So I came back out for a few hours and I had already set the crankshaft in, but I had not sealed the rear main seal. I put the rear main seal in place, but I didn't put any sealer between the halves because I wasn't sure if the crank and everything was going in for the last time. And then I got thinking about it. The block was clearanced for a stroker crankshaft. And it's a small journal setup. So I was willing to take a chance. So one by one, I put the pistons in. And with a small block Chevy with universal valve reliefs, I'll show you on the 377, they look the same, so it doesn't matter how they are orientated with the rods. Now the 421 has a large intake relief in the piston and a smaller exhaust, and you've seen a small block Chevrolet where the exhausts are on the end and in the middle, not like a big block where everything is symmetrical. So you have to do a little brain work to get the valve reliefs in the right spot along with the large offset on the rod so they're touching each other. So no big deal, you just got to think about it before you do it. When I put the pistons into the 377, my tapered piston ring installer turned out to not be the correct bore size. So I used my plier type. It has bands that wrap around. It's pretty efficient. Now, it worked great, but it does not compare to this 4155 bore tapered ring compressor that I borrowed from my brother. And you can push them in with your thumbs with this. This is awesome. It's funny how you get used to one method and you think it couldn't be improved upon, and then you actually try something else and it's honeymoon. So let's talk about degreeing in the camshaft. A lot of people avoid it because they don't have the right tools, or they figure, straight up, dot to dot is close enough, and it will run that way. Now, the idea behind degreeing in the camshaft is you're just matching what the cam grinder did. If they say it has to be, for instance, we're going to use the intake centerline method. There's more than one method, but that'll work the easiest. That's the most popular right now. If they say the intake centerline, in my case, on the 377 is 106, then when you check it and adjust it, you're going to put it in 106 unless you know something that they don't. Or you have a dyno and you want to try what advancing or retarding the camshaft does. But most of the time, you're like me, you're just out in the woods, and you're just going to put it where the cam manufacturer intended. It's as simple as that. So at any given point, you can throw anything in dot to dot, and it's probably going to run. But if you want to, at least, you have to believe that they did a lot of research, they did some dyno work, they tried it every way possible, and for each particular camshaft, this was the optimum setup. So you have to believe that and go ahead and work towards putting it where they intended. Now, the reasons it's not where they intended is the crankshaft keyway is cut in a factory somewhere in the world, and the timing set is made somewhere else, and then the camshaft and its dowel and bolt holes are made somewhere else still. So right back to tolerance stack, if each one's off a little bit, you can be off either direction. And that's pretty common. And then you have to fix it. You have to adjust it. There's offset bushings. If you just have a regular standard timing chain, you can bore out the dowel hole, and as you put these offset bushings in, you can adjust it that way. That's the way we used to have to do it. Now they have timing chains. The one currently installed on the 377 is just dot to dot or zero or straight up, and 3 or 4 degrees advanced or retarded. You've only got 3 keyways you can put on the bottom pull on the crankshaft, the bottom sprocket for the timing chain. And you can either be 0, straight up, or 3 or 4 degrees either way. I forget if that's a 3 or a 4 degree. The 421 has a timing setup. Again, you can move the lower sprocket, but you can move it in 2 degree increments, 4 degrees either way. So a total of 8 degrees you can adjust it. So that is a lot handier, and I can already see that the 421, the sprocket is not dot to dot. So when we get to that, we'll see. I don't remember what it was. I think it was advanced 4 degrees. We'll see why and if that still measures correctly. Now, there's nothing difficult about measuring. You have to find true top dead center, and if you're assembling an engine, you should find that anyway. So when you put the timing cover and the timing pointer and the balancer on, you know that you're actually at 0 when you're pointing a timing light at it. So that's important. And in the actual measuring of the camshaft intake center line, you're measuring the intake lobe on the camshaft, and the center line is its highest peak of lift compared to top dead center. And you want to match that up with the cam card. Now, this may look intimidating, but it's not. This is my brand new, very large Moroso Pro wheel. This is what I used for the first 30 or 40 years of my life. What I like about this old Mr. Gasket one is it tells you how to find top dead center, and also the old method of degreeing in a cam, where you actually check the valve vents when the intake and exhaust valves open and close. But nowadays, intake centerline is just as accurate, if not more so. So step 1, we need to find top dead center. If you rotate the engine and watch, the piston dwells at the top and the bottom for a few degrees. So it's impossible just to find the highest point and be accurately at top dead center. So what you do, set up your dial indicator so there's plenty of plunger travel. If I move the piston away, it'll drop a couple 100 thousandths before it stops reading. So I got lots of room there. So to start with, you just get it, eyeball it as close as possible to top dead center, and zero it. Put your degree wheel on, approximate top dead center, make a pointer that's nothing but a piece of TIG rod and a bolt. Super high tech. I do have a nice degree wheel socket that goes over the keyways of the crank. A 1/2-inch ratchet fits in here, and that of course holds the degree wheel. And I go ahead and snug that right up when I get it where I want it. So from this almost top dead center, you want to back the engine up opposite of normal rotation. And we're going to check top dead center at 50 thousandths either side of when the dial stops. So we're going to back it up 100 because you want all your measuring, both for top dead center and for intake centerline. You want to be rotating the engine with all the lash taken out in the proper direction, which is clockwise from where we're sitting right here. So we're going to back it up counterclockwise, maybe 100 thousandths, and then come back at 50 on either side of top dead center. And we're going to take a reading. In my case, I think it was 12 degrees on either side, and I had nailed it in the center. But if it was 14 and 10 or whatever, you just keep moving the degree wheel a little bit and rechecking it until you're away from zero at 50 thousandths on either side of top dead center, until your math comes out that you're actually pointing at zero. And leave that set up because you'll want to make sure that the degree wheel didn't move, and that's how you're going to ascertain that, because you can continue to check. You're going to zero it with that zero, so is the dial indicator, and they should agree throughout the whole process. I also like to make a mark on the crankshaft and the block. I'm not sure if you can see it accurately, but later on when I have the timing cover and the balancer on and I go to put my pointer on, I want to make sure I'm as close to top dead center as possible, and I won't be able to put the dial indicator back on the head because the engine will be assembled by then, I assume. If not, I'll check it again with the dial indicator. So to actually find the highest point of lift, you could set up another dial indicator on a lifter. In this case, it would have to be a roller lifter. This is a Jegs, happens to be Jegs camshaft lift checker, which also works excellent for degreeing in the camshaft. It has a specific roller that goes on a roller camshaft. There's also one for a flat tappet. I have the roller one in there. I have lots of travel on the dial indicator. And you're going to rotate the engine until you can zero the dial indicator on the highest point of lift. Just keep watching gentle in the direction of rotation of the engine until you're at your absolute highest point and zero it. Then you're going to back it up. Again, we're checking at 50 on either side, in this case, of the highest point of lift. So back it up 100. And this is where a large ratchet comes in handy, because you can be smooth. And you're going to come up to 50 thousandths before peak lift and take a reading. In this case, I believe I was 60. And you're going to go beyond peak lift to 50 thousandths, take another reading. I think I was 150. I have this written down, but it turns out I'm supposed to be 106 center line, and I'm 108. So, what to do from here? I like to measure several times, so I've set the camera up, and I'm going to attempt to do it while you watch. So right now, I have it zeroed, and I'm at maximum lift. And this is direct reading, but to be accurate, we need to back it up and do like I say. So I'm going to back the engine up counterclockwise from this perspective, 100 thousandths, and then come back up to 50 gently. So let me see what I can do, and I'll talk the whole time. Hopefully I don't block it for you. So let's back it up. Now my whole engine's going to turn here. That's the 50, but we're going to go more. That's 100. So now, being smooth, come up on 50. You can tap it if you need to. All right, and that is 61. Right there, 61. Now I'm going to continue. That's maximum lift right there. It's going to stop falling the other direction. We're going to smoothly go back to 50. I'll start tapping when I get within a degree. There we go. 155. So 61 and 155. Add those together and divide by 2, and that's your intake center line. So once again, my math has proven that it's 108 and it needs to be 106. And the time and chain set I currently have on here won't allow me to do that. And I'm not in a rush. This engine doesn't have to run tonight. I'm going to do what it takes to make it match the cam card. So I have another timing set that will adjust in 2-degree increments. Now, whether I start with the 2 degrees already in, or I put that chain on at 0 and see if there's a difference. Either way, I may have to do it several times. But let me go ahead and swap it, and then we'll try again. And it only takes a few minutes to strip off the old one, dig out my puller, pull the gear off, and I'm going from a ho-hum $30-ish time and chain set that is 4 degrees, advanced or retarded, or straight up. I just looked at the instructions. This is the next step up. It is I guess they call it a 9-way, 9 position, and it does have a bearing on the back. But the gear is still cast, but it'll be fine for this project. The 421, sorry for making you sick here, came with a billet gear. This is about $120 timing set. Still the 9-way crank sprocket. And it is currently installed on A4, which is advanced 4 degrees. So I'm excited to measure this one to see where we're at. And this is just mocked up, and it will get the same thrust button and lock setup that the other one did. I went ahead and put the new lower sprocket in the A2 position, advanced 2 degrees. I'm currently at my highest lift point. I'm going to back it up, and then I'm going to do the 50 on either side and see where we come out. Again, the engine stand rotates a little bit. Doesn't affect the degrees any, it's just my engine stand rotating. So let's back it up. There's 50, there's 100. Take all the lash out of it. And let's inch up on 50. Tap, tap, tap. And that is 58. Go past the point of peak lift. And smoothly back to 50. And that is 152. So 58 and 152. 58 and 152 is 210. Divided by 2, it's 105 intake center line. That's a lot closer to 106 and 108. And probably 1 degree advanced. Might not be a bad thing if you study cam timing. Might make a little more low end. So from here, if I wanted to gain that 1 more degree, and I'm going to check it a few more times to make sure my top dead center and my wheel is on perfect, but I've done it a few times and I'm at 105, I'm pretty sure. But you can never measure too many times. So the only way to get 1 degree is to have a hex adjust upper gear on your timing set. And I'm not sure, for a road machine with lots of miles hopefully going to be put on it, I'm not sure I want that much stuff moving around. I'm pretty secure with a keyway. I don't think I want much more monkey motion than that. So I'm probably going to live with it at 105. But let's check the 421 now, just for fun. Turns out the 421 is much harder to check and to stop at 50, both on checking the top dead center and the camshaft center line, because it has 1/16 rings, much thinner than the rings in the 377. That, and it's been run before, and it's it's not loose, it's just free spinning, let's put it that way, compared to the fresh 377, which is all brand new and stiff. This baby's got a few miles on it, so it makes it much more difficult to get accurate top dead center and the accurate center line, but this is supposed to be installed at 106 as well, and I'm in 104. But as I mentioned, I'm in the A4, Advanced 4 slot keyway. So if I put this one on A2 as well, this one should come out exactly on 106. Before I do that tonight, it's getting late, and I want to redo it a few times because, again, I was going to film it, but this is very difficult to stop at exactly 50 on either side of top dead center and either side of the intake center line. So I want to make sure I'm accurate. And then I will pull the gear off, move it, put it back on. And this one should be dead on 106. So this was fun. Let's do it again sometime. So I might have misspoke on the 377 if I wanted to be exact at 106. I could put a bushing in that upper gear as well. But in both cases, I'm going to remeasure 5 more times each. It only takes a few minutes, and it saves a few steps if you make a mistake, but I've checked it, each of them a few times, and they're coming out the same. So eventually you have to believe it. It's like if you tell somebody something 3 times, it must be true. Well, thanks for watching tonight. It's been a glorious day, and I hope you had a fun one as well. Talk to you in a couple days.